All right, guys, welcome to the Living in Tacoma, Washington podcast. My name is Austin Robertson. I am so happy that you are taking the time to join us, whether it's from YouTube, Instagram, or listening on one of the podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. Be sure to leave us a little review on Apple Music if you get a quick chance. I would super appreciate it. Today, I am really pumped to have you guys with me because, as you know, outside of just the generalized stuff of living in the greater Seattle, Tacoma area, what I do for a living is I am a real estate broker. And real estate has been up and down like crazy this last year. No one really has known what is going on. I was told personally by one of the top mortgage brokers in the entire country that by May we would have rates back down to 5%. And I think everybody really saw where that went. It just didn't happen. We expected buyers to kind of turn back a little bit when rates hit 8%. And the reality was that people still had to make a move. So we still had buyers doing their thing. And as the year has come to an end, the Zillow group started putting together all of their information, all of their data for their investors. When they did this, they actually compiled a giant list that was made up of over 250 billion, with a B, billion queries on their website. They used some AI powered technology to go through and ultimately figure out what buyers were looking for on their website. Now, whether you're in Tacoma, Seattle, or you're even in San Antonio or Chicago, listen to this. This is some really important data. I mean, I know every real estate company on the planet wants to believe they have some magical website, but the reality is that people go to Zillow more than any other platform on the internet. So this is the strongest, most important data as far as what buyers are searching for on a national level that we've ever been able to get our hands on. Okay. So out of this 250, again, billion searches, there were 10 things that really stood out super strong. I'm going to share these with you guys here on the report that I got from Zillow. So here is the actual report going through their top 10 items. These top 10 items were let's start with number 10, granite counters. Okay, so obviously durable, elegant in the kitchen and bathrooms. People are starting to want, whenever they're paying that higher payment, they're going to want better, nicer, cleaner finishes. We were probably a lot more relaxed when we were sitting somewhere like that 2 to 3%. But when you're paying 8%, man, I mean, you're gonna really want those nicer finishes. Number 9, basements was a big item that was searched. And again, this is all of all areas across the country in Zillow. Now, out here in the PNW, you're really not going to see basements be a big search term, right? Because, with the water table, the constant rain, things like that, a basement really isn't that great. But I can tell you, look, I'm a kid that came from the Midwest, dealt with tornadoes my entire life. And I can't tell you how many homes I've lived in where I had to just duck under the stairs to get away from these tornadoes. So a basement would be fantastic. I also lived in my mom's basement when I was in high school. I got a separate living space and I loved it. Number 7, pools. Again, in our area, pools are not a big deal. But like I said, coming from the Midwest where summers could hit 100 plus, a pool is a really nice thing to have, way to get out. Number 6, open floor plans. Now, modern interconnected living spaces was something that I felt like was pushed a lot harder a couple of years ago. I was really kind of going through the COVID times, everyone wanted open floor plans. I noticed this year it kind of had a less requests for that. The number five thing that people searched for on Zillow nationwide was patios. And I do think this is something that I see a lot around here. People want like something outdoor where they can barbecue. Out here, a lot of us have gas fireplaces, TVs, really cool place to entertain. And I think it's really good because no matter what your climate is, it makes sense, right? Number four, walk-in closets. I think everybody on the planet would love to have a walk-in closet, a lot of space, a lot of room for organization. As we've, been living with each other a little bit more, families have kind of come together. Having that space and organization is more important. Number three, I was kind of surprised that fireplace was the number three searched item in all of Zillow in 2023. I don't know. If you have a fireplace, let me know. Drop something in the comments if you're watching. Is this that important? I really couldn't believe that it was such a top tier item, but it was. Number two, backyard. This one, I think, is probably one of the biggest ones that we've seen recently. People want more outdoor space with their home. And if you're coming from a place like California where you have really small lots and you're moving somewhere like Tennessee, having a back door is, our backyard is something that's probably super important. And number one, garage. I think garage hit number one nationally because whether you're more rural and you want to have a couple of cars, or if you live more in the city, right, and you want to park a car somewhere, then ultimately, having a garage is super important. So there were some definite like search standouts in this stuff, like climate control systems, centralized heating, centralized air. It was one of the top three search terms for 22 out of the 30 cities. Now, interestingly, like central heating actually took the number one spot in several smaller and southern cities that honestly have kind of a more mild climate, like Atlanta, Charlotte, Dallas, Jacksonville, LA, Nashville, San Antonio, and Tampa. Like there was a big surge of heightened interest in these areas when it came to climate control. Now, here's the thing. We do have a lot of inventory that's super outdated that we probably just need to tear down and get rid of, frankly. A lot of these older homes, if you're in the Tacoma, Seattle area, you can see this. We have homes that don't have heating or air, right? Because a while ago, down the road in the past, the climate was never that extreme. We're just starting to see that creep up. In fact, for a long time, Seattle was actually the largest city to not have air conditioners. Like more homes than any other city in the country didn't have air conditioning. And that was just changed this year when San Francisco ended up taking over as the number one city with the least amount of air conditioning. And, I think this is just, really as people are searching, I think this is just a heightened response to the shifting climate patterns. Like we can debate, climate change, global warming, whatever. But some of these southern cities have had really cold snaps over the past couple of years. It's becoming more common, just like up here in the Pacific Northwest. We are starting to see that we're having some, warmer snaps that are coming in, and that's getting people more interested in air conditioning. Now, the other thing that kind of stood out for me was views from urban skylines, like picturesque mountain views. They held like a really premium position for buyers across several cities. Our area, the Seattle Tacoma area, was the standout, definitely the most views obsessed. People loved views from the Seattle data. And of course, as we get through this, we are going to be diving more directly into the Seattle data. But most views obsessed as far as mountain views, city views, water views, all ranking across the top 5 searches. Obviously we have a huge respect uh, for the scenery here and all the stuff that our cities have to offer. Definitely. As far as water views, obviously, like Miami came in really high on water views alongside of Atlanta. San Francisco, really leaned more towards the top when it came to city views. And Colorado Springs was one that really competed very highly as far as searches for mountain views. So, Colorado, our area, Oregon, all really big on the mountain views. If we head down south and we look towards Atlanta, interestingly enough, in the top five, we saw double vanities really being a big one. I guess people don't want to shower and sit next to their spouse and try to brush teeth over one another. I think this is actually one of the more reasonable, right? Big searches that came in. And then interestingly enough, Naples came in with like tennis courts. Thought that was really fun. I would have thought by now it probably would have shifted over to, pickleball courts, but still definitely there. Um, Philadelphia, some of these bigger cities like that, they were really big on having street parking, finished basements, and garage. Those seem to be like a really big feature out on the East Coast. Um, Interestingly enough, man, as I was digging through this, I thought, does anybody care about architecture? Like, does anybody have architecture as like one of its top things? I mean, we love houses, right? But the only place that really had architecture coming in as its top choice was Tucson, Arizona, of all places. And it was, the search for contemporary homes, like more than anything else. Very, very interesting. And then lastly, obviously across warm weather, like your Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Miami, Orlando, Phoenix, pools were definitely top tier. And I gotta tell you, if I travel someplace like that, I'm gonna be wanting to dive into pools as well. Now, as far as the Zillow searches and what people were looking for, contemporary and ranch styles are really popular in urban and ranch style areas. So your Montanas, Dallas, things like that. New York, Philadelphia, and Chicago, there was a huge search increase for historical homes. Miami and San Diego, big on the villas. Pacific Northwest, obviously the craftsman style homes, like that's a really easy go-to out here. Everybody loves a good craftsman home out here. And then loft style homes were trending very heavily in Miami, Chicago, and Dallas. So that kind of gives you a range of, what this Zillow data has. So if you live in any of those areas and you have any of those features, you could really be like top tier when it comes to selling. Now, again, this isn't, a buyer going on here and filling out a form. This is what they are actually searching for on Zillow. Okay. So think about that. Like if you have these features, you have a huge advantage when it comes to selling your house. So what about our area, right? What are people searching for in the greater Seattle, Tacoma area on Zillow? Well, luckily, out of the 30 cities that they gave us, they did give us Seattle and Tacoma as far as the top 5 searches on Zillow. So number 5, most searched thing on Zillow in 2023 for our local market here was fireplaces. I kind of get it. Like, I don't have a wood burning fireplace. I do have a gas powered fireplace, and I absolutely love it. Like, it doesn't get cold enough here that I really need to crank the heat on, but sometimes, my feet get a little chilly, and turning the fireplace on for just a minute gets the house warm enough. The other side is the ambiance of it is fantastic, right? Like, having the fire going, especially just now, coming out of the Christmas season. I think the fireplace was a really nice touch there. So much so that you see people turning on fireplaces on their television, having fake fireplaces. All right, number 4. The number 4 most searched thing on Zillow by all buyers looking to either move to the Seattle Tacoma market or around our market was water views. Now, obviously, with the sound right here, there's so much potential for water views. I think waterfront is a lot harder, but with all of the hills that we have, the opportunity for a view of the water is actually not that crazy. I mean, down the Tacoma area, you can probably find this for, 800 to 1.2 million. Obviously, as you creep up north into Seattle, Bellevue areas, you're going to be paying quite a bit more money for the water views. But I can tell you personally, we live in the woods. We have some mountain views. But when I go and stay, like for example, with my wife down on Point Ruston, and we're right there, and out the window you have the sound. There's something so special about being able to see the water, to see the seals playing, hear the waves, just kind of crashing against the rocks a little bit. It's nothing too crazy. It's not like Florida or anything, but it is a good little hit. So water views came in at number 4. Number 3 thing that people were searching for in our market was hardwood floors. I was a little surprised by this one. They were very clear that this is actual hardwood floors. I know they're nice. One of the upsides is that a lot of these older homes that we have in our market do have options for hardwood floors. You can pull up carpet in a lot of these houses and find hardwood floors, especially as you run into these older neighborhoods. The opportunity to find a hardwood floor in a house is so much easier. I was kind of surprised though, this didn't say like no carpet or LVP, luxury vinyl plank, because it's waterproof. And living around here, I think that's something that's really important. And I can tell you that I've had a lot of people who just straight up said, look, I do not want carpet. Like I'll take it in the bedroom if I have to have it, but I would prefer not to have any carpet. Number 2 on our list of the top 5 things coming in is city views. Now, this primarily, I think, really correlates more with inner city Seattle, inside of Bellevue. Obviously, there's so many stunning views from any of these cities. Tacoma's got some great views. Seattle's got some great views. But I also kind of feel like maybe this was just a search to see like really cool views. Like, I don't know if buyers were looking at city views in a way that they were going to make a move or pull the trigger necessarily based off of city views. Love to know what you think. Let me know. Number 1, the number 1 thing that people search for on Zillow in our market. Hope you're ready for it. Here comes a drum roll. It was mountain views. This one I can get behind. Like, there is something so awesome about looking out your window and just seeing the Cascades or seeing the Olympics. My business partner, Chris, when he gets in his hot tub, Mount Rainier is dead on right out of the valley. Coming up the road from my house, we're dead centered view of Mount Rainier. And there is something so magical about it. And obviously, we all say live like the mountain is out, but I really just want to see the mountain. I just want to have an opportunity to see it when I leave my house. And I look forward to it every single day. So buyers in our market were really looking for mountain views above everything else, according to Zillow's data. So again, recap those for you. What are the 5 things that people are searching for in the greater Seattle Tacoma market in 2023? That is a fireplace, views of the water, hardwood floors, city view, or mountain view. Now, here's where I'm going to kind of break this a little bit. This is not really like what I've been seeing from my buyers. like both my local buyers and the ones who are relocating, either PCSing into JBL Lim or coming from YouTube. I felt like maybe this list was slightly askewed. Like, was it just people like looking for fun primarily? Were these features just, a nice to have? Like, I don't know that I've had a single client this year either move or move into the area where a water view or a mountain view was a primary goal. Definitely a secondary goal. Okay. Completely get that. But like, they've had people come in and build homes, and when they've gotten to their lot, they're like, oh, there's Mount Rainier. I didn't know I was going to have a view of Mount Rainier. That's super awesome. But I've not seen them make that a priority. So, I think there's some consideration that needs to be taken into that, like, maybe not everybody that gets on Zillow is searching to buy right now, right? They could just be looking for their dream house, playing around on there. Like, how many of us don't just get on Zillow and look at cool houses? Like, I know I do. I know my wife does. I know my friends do. It's just something that happens. So what I thought I would do with you today is I would share with you like our top request. Well, what are we actually getting? So our number 5 for me this year was closer to family or to add family members living together. Now, obviously, since COVID, I think we've seen a lot more people making the move to live with one another, to have multi-generational living. The cost out here it's so expensive, and especially when our mortgage rates aren't giving us much of a break. After the last Fed meeting, we were lucky enough to see rates hit down in the 6s for some of our good friends who ultimately have outstanding credit. But outside of that, we are seeing a huge emphasis put in play for people to live together, for more generations to live under one roof. Number 4, a big one that we saw was access to parks. We end up working with a lot of families. And even if you are out of that phase of life, maybe you're a little bit older, your kids are grown up, it's important to know that people are still looking for those features. They really do want to have access to parks. And obviously our area is fantastic. Like, we've got a ton of parks locally. We've got state parks, we've got national park. If you want parks, like, this is the area of the country you need to come to. Like, I cannot stress it enough. And we've got every type of everything: mountains, ocean, deserts, whatever you want. Hell, we got a rainforest, right, guys? So access to parks has been a big one. Number 3, big lots. This one really was this one kind of falls really into that realm of people that were moving in from out of state, which we do a lot of that kind of business. And they're really shocked when they get here and they realize that, like, a lot of our yards are really small. And if you look up in Seattle, some of these lots now are having a second house built on the lot. So the access to the big lot, like, it's just really not quite there like it used to be. So if you have a bigger lot, that's a big one. Number 2, here we go. And again, this one kind of came from a lot of people moving in here, but some locals as well, which was air conditioning. Again, we talked earlier in this call, in this podcast, about people are looking at climate control, whether it's heating, whether it's cooling. And like I said, Seattle area is no longer the least amount of air conditioners in the country. Now that's passed on to San Francisco. We're doing a lot better. Thank you, God. Everybody loves to have air conditioning, but people who are moving, and again, with an 8% interest rate, or they're building homes here in the greater Seattle, Tacoma area, they are not willing to sacrifice an opportunity to have air conditioning. And then our number 1 thing that we got brought in on from all of our buyers, and they were kind of frustrated because there's still not really a good way to search this. And as a real estate agent, you've got to be kind of careful with how you approach this. People wanted the best schools in the areas, and this also includes private schools. Now on Zillow, this is kind of hard to do because you really can't rank schools. So getting people with like websites like niche.com, those different places where you can see kind of how schools rank and read some of those reviews and items like that have been really, really important in 2023. And I really don't see this changing. I mean, as the cost of living continues to increase, people are going to be expecting more from the areas that they're living in. And this includes for their children. So I don't see the request for the best schools to go away anytime soon at all. So what we saw personally inside of our real estate business was top schools, air conditioning, bigger lots, access to parks, and to be closer to family or to add another generation. So that's a lot of really awesome insight for you guys there. So how does this help you, right? Like if you're listening to this right now and maybe you're planning on making a move, as rates start to creep down a little bit, you can see if your home has any of these opportunities, right? Like if your home has any of the things that I talked about, and it doesn't just have to be, here in the Seattle Tacoma area. Like if you're in like Tucson and you have a contemporary style house, like your house is going to be one of the hottest things that people are searching for. If you're here and you have a mountain view, you're kind of at the top tier of what people are actually searching for. So you really do have an advantage. You kind of stack those things up, look into those things. And listen, if you're not here, if you're not in the Seattle Tacoma area, maybe you're thinking about selling your house, just reach out to me. My phone number is down here below, or it's in the podcast notes. Either way, I can connect you with a super awesome real estate agent in your market that can definitely help you through all this. Now, how does it help me personally? Man, this really helps me to market your house. Like this gives me such an advantage. I have an inside track to what the people that are going to buy your property are actually wanting. Not like what I think they're wanting, not what, some expert on CNBC told me, but their actual searches. Like that is so wild. Like we are so lucky to have this. And I think this will really help us get a lot more targeted as we're looking for ways to market properties in a higher interest rate kind of world. And this really does give you an advantage on buyers. As rates start to come down, you can get in on the market. Or probably, I would say, between now and spring is going to be your hottest time to get there before these rates drop too low. Well, it's going to give you a sweet advantage knowing what everybody is already searching for. So here's my offer. Until February 1st, I would be happy to do a free market analysis and an equity review with you on whatever properties that you own. No cost. You don't have to list your house, just so you can kind of see with these new searches coming out and what the market has done over the past few years, where you sit. So you can give us an email at info@livingintacomawashington.com. Make sure you send us your name, email, phone number, and address so that we can actually put together the equity report. And then whenever you are free, we can simply travel out there if you're in the greater Seattle Tacoma area, and we can go over that with you and maybe hopefully help you make a better decision on whether or not selling your house this year makes sense, or holding it or renting it is the brightest move. So again, info@livingintacomawashington.com for your free CMA. And this will go on from now until February 1st. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Those are the top searches that came out from Zillow at the end of the year. There are 30 specific cities where information was released Obviously, we just looked at the Seattle Tacoma market. But if you're in a different area and you want me to connect you with a real estate agent that can help you go over this kind of stuff, again, just shoot us a phone call, text, or an email, 253-225-2395, info@livingintacomawashington.com. And we'll be seeing you guys next week. Super excited for that show. We're going to be diving into some big changes happening as far as conversion in the greater Seattle market from office spaces to residential living and some affordable housing coming to Bellevue and a lot more. So can't wait to see you guys next week, Thursday at 4:30 p.m. right here. You guys have a good night.